So when I was younger, I was never really a naturally great dribbler. However, throughout the years, I've become a much better dribbler by simply taking a few actions. So today I'm going to be teaching you how to improve your dribbling and your 1v1 ability. Now, in terms of your 1v1 ability, I normally play fullback. So normally I'm defending 1v1. So I'll be teaching you, what are the best ways to, go up against your defenders, what gives me trouble in terms of 1v1 defending, and yeah, how you can use that in order to improve your 1v1 ability. So let's start off with dribbling, just pure dribbling. Now, there are two types of dribbling. There's the close control, sort of quick change of direction type of dribbling, I think of like guys like Messi, guys like Bernardo Silva. Normally it's guys, short stature, low center of gravity, and they can just get out of tight spaces. Normally it's a bunch of, change of directions, a lot of pirouettes, a lot of body feints, you know what I'm saying? And there's the second type of dribbling where it's like carrying the ball through the pitch, you understand? Guys like Paul Pogba, guys like Frankie de Jong, you know what I'm saying? Guys who can really, just travel with the ball long distances. Now, in order to become a good dribbler, you have to include, training drills that actually accommodate both. You have to, have training drills where you're working in a you're working in a small space where it's a lot of touches, a lot of close control touches, but then you also have to have drills where it's like you're focusing on carrying the ball 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards, because at the end of the day, football's an 11-a-side game, and there's going to be times where you're going to have to get used to driving with the ball like a long distance, like 10 yards, 15 yards, while also keeping it in control, whilst also being prepared to change directions quickly in case an opponent comes from your right side, your left side, or even straight ahead of you. You understand? The mistake that I made in terms of my dribbling is that I only focus on the close control, because for some reason as footballers, I've talked to a lot of people, everyone thinks, okay, dribbling is just all about closeness, just a lot of quick touches, you know what I'm saying? You have drills like the Ronaldinho drill that everyone talks about, for your dribbling, but people forget that it's like, in football, there's going to be times where you're going to have to carry that ball far distances whilst also keeping it under control, you understand? If you're a centre midfielder, you're going to have to drive through the fudge, take on your man and sort of have that little burst of acceleration. Guys like Foden are very good at that, where they have that little burst of acceleration where they can, get past the defender. If you're a winger, there's going to be times where you're going to have to get the ball off your fullback or get the ball off your centre mid, and you're just gonna have to go at your man. There's like 20 yards where you sort of have to, you drive at your man for 5 yards, do your skills, hit him with a step over, and then burst another 10 yards, you understand? So there's gonna be times where you're gonna have to carry the ball far distances, and dribbling is not necessarily, that close control all the time, you know what I'm saying? So obviously do certain drills that focus on your close control, and also do certain drills that work on your ball carrying ability, because trust me, like I said before, my mistake was I was good with like the close control, but when it came to matches, I couldn't really carry the ball thar distances, you know what I'm saying? I couldn't carry the ball far distances. I can only really work in the tight spaces, which is a good thing, but you also want to have the ability to drive through midfield, or even as a fullback, ball gets switched over to you, you take that touch, and then you carry it. If you have green grass in front of you, you literally just carry it 10-15 yards, get your team up the pitch, and then you play your pass into the striker, into the centre mid, or into your winger. In terms of what drills to do, there's so many different drills you can do, but the thing is, you don't even have to do different drills. You don't even have to have separate drills for your close control and separate drills for your far distance dribbling, you understand? You can literally do the same drills but just increase or decrease the distance, you understand? So for example, the zigzag drill, I'm pretty sure everyone knows the zigzag dribbling drill, where you might start passing against the wall, you turn on your back foot, and then you just dribble, in and out the cones. You can do, for this one, in order to improve your close control, this should just decrease the distance between each cone, you know what I'm saying? Maybe you take 3 steps between each cone, or you take 4 or 5 steps between each cone. And then when you want to work on carrying the ball far distances and working on changing direction whilst carrying the ball far distances, you just increase the distance between each cone. You increase the distance by like 10 steps or 12 steps, you understand? So you don't necessarily have to have separate drills for each category, but literally just do the same. You can do the same drills but just increase and decrease the distance depending on what you want to do. One weakness that many footballers have is improving their weak foot. For some reason, a lot of players I've spoken to just can't seem to figure out how to improve their weak foot, whether they're right-footed or left-footed. But luckily for you, I've made a course on how to improve your weak foot. This course is currently in the works. In this course, I'm going to be showing you drills. I'm going to be teaching you how to get better at, different aspects of the game in terms of your weak foot. So passing, your shooting, your dribbling, and I'll be teaching you stuff outside of the pitch that can actually help your weak foot as well, you know, things that no other football YouTuber is talking about. So if you're interested, if you want to improve your weak foot, click the first link in the description, get the course, and trust me, you won't regret. Your weak foot will 100% improve. Now, when it comes to 1v1s attacking wise, now as an attacker in 1v1 situations, I can tell you as a defender, the one thing that you can't do, the one thing that will make me think, okay, cool, this is going to be an easy matchup, I'm going to lock this guy up, is hesitation. Once defenders see you, you know, hesitating, not really sure what you want to do with the ball, that's when they're going to, you know, that's when they're going to step in and they're going to be like, alright, cool, I got this guy today, you understand? Me as a fullback, the worst type of wingers you have are the ones who are just relentless. The ones who, even if they're not technically the best, but they're just aggressive at you, you know what I'm saying? They get the ball and they just go at you. They go at you at pace, you know? It gives you something to think about. They always put you on the back pedal, you know what I'm saying? But if you're one of these wingers who, you know, you take time, you don't really know, you're kind of hesitating, bro, I'm gonna see that I'm just gonna put a foot forward, you understand? Or I'm gonna force you to, you know, I'm gonna force you to go backwards, you understand? So as a winger, you just have to be decisive, and in order to be decisive, in my opinion, as a winger, you have to get a certain set of skills, you understand? You have to decide on, okay, cool, I'm a winger, I need to go both ways. I need to go, let's say you're a right-footed left winger, I need to be able to have a move to cut inside, and I need to be able to go on the outside. So literally just get like 3 moves for each one. Literally just get 3 moves for, you know, cutting inside, and then 3 skill moves for going on the outside. You can do fake shots, you can do body feints, you can do different step over combinations. Maybe it's a single step over, a double step over, maybe even a triple step over, you understand? But literally just get set moves and just work on those, just practice those, so that when you get into those 1v1 situations, you're not sort of like, oh, what do I do? Because you've practiced them so many times, you see the situation and you're like, alright, cool, I'm going on the outside, let me hit him with a step over and then a burst, or I'm going on the inside, let me fake to shoot with my left and then bring the ball back inside, and then, you know, finish with my right. You just have to, it just has to come as second nature, you understand? Because like I said, as soon as you show that hesitation, the defender can sense it. The defender can sense it, and the worst thing you can do as a winger is try to go 1v1 and then sort of turn back and hold on to the ball. Because once you turn back and hold on to the ball, that's sort of like the trigger for a defender, you understand? That's the trigger for a defender, and that's when they're going to get aggressive to you, that's when they're going to get tight to you, and if you take too long on it, you're ultimately going to end up losing the ball. Think of a guy like Vinicius Jr. The thing is with Vinicius Jr. is that even if he, you know, loses out on 1v1s, he's always giving the defender something to think about, simply because he's just relentless, you understand? He's always going at people at pace, you know what I'm saying? Because he can go on the outside or he can go on the inside, but he's just always driving at pace, you know what I'm saying? It's very rare you'll see Vinny just stop like this and then, you know, he's sort of waiting for something to happen, he's hesitating, he's just going at defenders, you understand? He's just going. Obviously, you've got those type of wingers who can sort of stand still, you know, decelerate and then accelerate away, you understand? But I feel like that's quite rare in football. Obviously, you've got guys like Elise, guys like Ryan Cherky for Leon. Obviously, you have them type of ballers who can literally just sit, who can literally just, you know, bring the game to a stop and then sort of accelerate away. The best guy at doing that was probably Neymar. Neymar would literally just, he'll literally be walking with the ball like this, and then he'll just accelerate away, you understand? But normally the best dribblers, they're just very direct. Think of like Ousmane Dembele. Ousmane Dembele can do the, you know, the decelerate and then accelerating, but normally Dembele is just very direct, you understand? Obviously, he's probably the most ball-footed player I've probably seen in a while, you understand? He can go both ways, he can manipulate the ball with both feet, but he's just always direct. He's always direct. Just always wants to go at someone, you understand? Doesn't matter outside, inside, he just always wants to go at someone. So yeah, literally, it's just about being relentless as a winger. Literally just always go at pace, you know what I'm saying? No matter what you do, just do it quickly, because at least when you do it quickly, it makes the defender sort of back off and sort of be like, oh shit, like I need to be ready. If you're just, you know, lazy, sort of don't know what to do, you know, you might hit a step over, but it's not really an intentional step over. You want to hit a step over, or a body feint, or like a fake shot that makes the defender actually think, alright, cool, he might, you know, you want to actually fake out your defender. I've seen so many wingers where it's like they'll just do a step over, they'll just, you know, they'll come at you slowly, do a step over, and I'm like, the step over, it's not really sending me, you understand? It's not really doing anything. So yeah, just make sure that you're aggressive and you just go at your defender at pace, because like I said, as a fullback, I know that The hardest wingers are the ones where it's like they'll go at you at pace. They just do everything quick, you understand? You don't want to be, lazy blah with it. And the last thing with 1v1s, just like with anything, is the mindset. If you genuinely believe you can beat this defender and you've got this defender, you're just way more likely to actually go past him, you understand? Like, I feel like, you remember when there was a stat when Van Dijk hadn't been dribbled past in like so long, you understand? I feel like it got to a certain point where guys were actually scared of going at Van Dijk. Certain guys who could have actually dribbled past Van Dijk on a different day, but because they were hearing about, oh, he hasn't been dribbled past, he was hearing about, Van Dijk aura and all of that. I feel like that actually played a part in their mindset, because as soon as they came up against Van Dijk, they were like, oh damn, I don't think I can go past him. Let me just lay the ball off to someone else. But I guarantee that if they went up against, who was it that season that he was playing alongside? Was it Lovren? It was either Lovren or Matip. But I guarantee if it was Lovren and Matip, they would have had the mentality of like, alright, cool, I can do this, because it's just all a mindset. Yes, Van Dijk is a better defender than both Lovren and Matip, but he's not better to the point, or they're not worse than Van Dijk to the point where it's like they're just absolutely shit. It's not like Van Dijk is here and they're just shit defenders. Like, Matip was a good defender, you understand? It was like Van Dijk was here and like Matip was sort of here. So the difference in level wasn't enormous, but it was just the mentality of the players. It was just their mindset. Once you actually know that I can beat someone, you're way more likely to beat them. When you have that belief, you can even see a guy like Marcus Rashford, like ultimate confidence player. You saw him in the Champions League against PSG in that second leg, bro. Guy just came alive because he believed it. Like, he saw Marquinhos, he saw Mendes, and because he was feeling it that day, because Rashford was feeling it that day, he was like, alright, cool, I've got him. I see Rashford, not making guys, faking to shoot on his left, bringing it back outside to his right. I was seeing him doing mad stuff, but on another day where Rashford's not really that confident, you could see him. Rashford, when he's not confident, he doesn't really want to guide his man. He doesn't really want to run at people. He'll be stationary with the ball, not really doing something. He might try something and then just pass it inside. So it's literally just all a mindset. Same with defending as well. Defending 1v1s, I've experienced it as well, where it's like when you know that you've got this winger, it's sort of like, yo, you're on it, you know what I'm saying? You're on it, you're active, you know what I'm saying? You're ready to just poke in the sight of like a bad touch. Let's say the winger takes a bad touch, you're just ready to poke in. But let's say it's one of them ones where it's like, this winger has like a reputation. Guys on your team before the game are telling you, watch out for that guy, he's a baller. Because it's got into your psyche like, this guy's a baller. That fear is sort of going into your mind, you understand? That fear is going into your mind. So now you're not as aggressive. Now you're sort of just standing off him, you understand? Or you're being overly aggressive, you understand? You're either being overly aggressive or you're being too passive. You're not getting that right balance. So like, let's say the guy that the winger you're coming up against as a fullback, he takes a bad touch. Instead of you normally against anyone else, you'd step in and you'd recognize that bad touch and you step in, you get a toe to the ball. But because for some reason it's got into your psyche of, you don't want to get embarrassed by this player, everyone's saying he's a baller, you sort of miss that opportunity to sort of dive in, get the ball, or even with like a slide tackle, you got the opportunity to take him out, clean slide tackle, and you miss that opportunity simply because it's a mentality thing, you understand? 1v1s, in my opinion, is a mentality thing. If you genuinely believe you're going to get past the player, you're way more likely to do it. Same with defending. If you believe, I'm locked down, he ain't getting past me, you're way more likely to do it. But yeah, that's the video on dribbling and 1v1s. I hope you enjoyed. I've been JT, and I'm out.